So I've made some videos about the best Xbox Series X enhanced games, but just because they've been enhanced doesn't mean they're the most graphically impressive games on the system. Now don't get me wrong, they feature heavily in this video, but there are just some amazing graphics on last gen games that still stack up to the latest and greatest, and I want to put those in the spotlight as well. These are backwards compatible games of course, but they've had patches to take advantage of the increased power of the Series X. But they haven't received next gen patches, or perhaps they just perform a hell of a lot better now. These games are the best looking ones if you want to see the extra grunt in all its glory, and I'll keep adding new games to the list as they become available. But if you like the video, then please share it around on different platforms, give it a thumbs up, leave a like, and subscribe as it helps the channel get noticed. But let's see which games will have you weeping with their good looks. Let's go. So at number 10, we start with Control, which is a backwards compatible game, and this is getting the next gen upgrade soon, but damn does this game still look damn awesome. And the reason for that is that we get the same great image quality, but the performance manages to hit that wonderful 60 frames a second mark much more often. Now it isn't perfect, but when comparing it to the One X version, this runs a hell of a lot better, and when things start shattering, splintering and exploding all over the environment, when you start hurling everything in sight, the game handles it all much better than before, and because of this, it's just so much better to play. Check out my review of the One X version for the issues I had, plus what the game is like as a whole. But Remedy games always seem to push the hardware with their games, and Control is no exception. It looks beautiful and performs much better now, plus it's a great game overall too. Up next at number 9 we have Borderlands 3, and this is the first enhanced game on the list, but playing this when compared to the last gen version can be night and day at times. The One X version would stutter and drop frames all the time, especially when playing in resolution mode, and it just made the whole experience not all it could be, which was a shame as the gameplay and loot is really fucking good in this game. But now the game performs so much better, with it sticking way closer to that 60 frames a second mark, and much more often as well, whilst it keeps a higher resolution overall. Image looks cleaner from even the updated last gen consoles, but this also makes the list as I've always been a big fan of the visual design of the Borderlands games, which gives it its own twist on that comic book style look, whilst looking so damn impressive as well, especially the environments and weapon models. It's just the main story that lets the whole package down a little bit, but it's still awesome. At number 8 we have Halo 5, and this is one of the older games on the list, but it still holds up damn well on the Series X for a few reasons, even if it doesn't have an Xbox Series X and S enhanced patch to go with it. A bit disappointing, seeing as it's probably Xbox's premier franchise, but Halo 5 always looked great on the original Xbox, but the increase in power means the game runs so damn smoothly, and I never noticed any sort of frame rate hit at all. In terms of the visuals themselves, they still hold up quite well, even if you can tell it's an older game, with texture detail at a distance or character models and armor not appearing as good as something more modern. But when it comes to the lighting and some of the levels themselves, then Halo 5 still looks great, and when the lighting is most prominent is when the game looks its absolute best. At other times where this doesn't happen, which also goes for the next game on the list, it can look a little bland with environments lacking some detail and complexity. But overall, the game still looks very good, and its performance at 60 frames a second and keeping a higher resolution than what was possible before makes it get on this list. For number 7 we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and although I'm not the biggest fan of this game at all, as I find it overly bloated and not that great when it comes to story, and find it more of an Assassin's Creed game in name only, but its vast landscapes and waterways take full advantage of the Xbox Series X so early in its life cycle, and the reason for it looking so impressive, as I've mentioned before, is because of its lighting. Watching the piercing glow of the sun cascade through the trees, or watching it reflect off the water as you carefully steer your longship along the many rivers, it never fails to impress. Couple that with the times where the game is showing off its colour palette, such as areas with lush vegetation and a whole host of colourful flowers around you, and the game looks gorgeous. It can be let down at times and look a little washed out and dated, which could be an issue with it being cross-gen as well, but with high frame rate modes also available in this open world behemoth, it's certainly something to check out from a visual standpoint. Coming in at number 6 we have Cyberpunk 2077, and this is yet another game which doesn't have an Xbox Series X or S enhanced patch, but this game can look simply stunning at times. Let's start with the environments. The buildings are all very well detailed, and with some stretching off into the sky, and this is coupled with excellent draw distance, which goes as far as the eye can see. Night City is littered with items to further bring the world to life in all its neon and sun-soaked glory, and it's the city, weapons and cars themselves which are the real star, and it's been brought to life, and that quality extends to the characters in the main campaign and side quests, which look and behave expertly with many subtle movements and animations to bring them to life. But when we get to the standard Joe Blow citizen on the street, then things aren't nearly as good, with a lot less detail, moving cardboard cutouts really. The frame rate is never locked unless you're in interiors on either performance or quality modes, and even though the rain-soaked city looks fantastic with all its lighting effects and reflections, the rain itself does look a bit shit. At number 5 is Doom Eternal, and for a last gen game without any sort of Xbox Series X or S enhancements for next gen, this is still impressive as fuck, as even if somebody told me this was next gen, I would believe it if I hadn't already played it on the One X. It ran awesome back on all of those last gen systems, and there isn't really a whole lot here in terms of increased resolutions or frame rates, as id Software already had this game looking amazing and performing with both barrels. The environments and the diversity is excellent just on their own, and then you add the fantastic weapons and some of the best enemy design, then throw in all of the explosions, special effects and reflections, and everything comes together to create such an impressive game. This still very much deserves to be played on the current gen hardware, and with a feature like Quick Resume, even more so because you can pop in and out of the game much faster. It may be a last gen game and backwards compatible, but don't skip out on Doom Eternal. Up at number 4 we have the latest Call of Duty, and it's Cold War. Now this game gave me many issues with its freezing and hard crashes, but it's a damn fine looking game sometimes. The part where you pilot the helicopter taking down the small villages just looked amazing, and that quality mostly extends to the characters themselves and their animations. The lighting in particular is beautiful at times, and the ray tracing, both in reflections and shadows, really bumps up the gaming quality when it comes to the graphical fidelity. Environments tend to be very well done as well, and when the action ramps up with multiple enemies, explosions, and all the graphical wizardry on display, the game handles it all well with high frame rates with no noticeable dips that get too much in the way. Really, Cold War in terms of its campaign is quite good. It's just those damn technical issues I had that dampened the enjoyment, but it's a looker, that's for sure. For number 3 we have the beautiful Immortals Phoenix Rising, and I believe this game is firstly underrated as a whole, and secondly underrated when it comes to its graphics, mainly due to its art style and visual design. But Immortals looks downright fucking amazing at times. It has a huge, bright and colourful world with some of the most impressive lighting at times that brings the world to life in all of its 4K HDR glory. And it doesn't matter if you're playing in resolution or quality modes, as they both look and perform great. Of course the quality mode has the slightly better visuals, but everything looks so stunning and smooth when seeing this world in either. From mountain peaks to looking out from atop of the large statues, when it looks this good and runs silky smooth as well. When it comes to art style and also having a world which is quite unique, even if it is compared to Breath of the Wild and has a lot of the usual Ubisoft traits, Immortals Phoenix Rising is a fun game and stunning to look at. At number 2 we have the greatest racing game around in my opinion, and it's the stunningly gorgeous and fucking phenomenal Forza Horizon 4. And this is another game that already looked amazing on last gen, especially on the Xbox One X, but now it goes beyond that, with quality and performance modes being taken out, and gamers are left with a luscious 4K 60 frames a second with increased details when compared to the console's predecessor. Forza Horizon 4 is a stunning achievement, not only in graphics but in open worlds. I mentioned before that this would look amazing even if it was a track racer, but the fact that it's open world is just amazing. Everything from the cars, environmental details, trees, grass, and crashing through the stone fences, and watching them smash apart is recreated so well, and it simply runs flawlessly on the Xbox Series X. Playground games seem to just improve with each game, and I can't wait to see what they blow us away with when it comes to Forza Horizon 5. Incredible visuals and an excellent game. And at number 1 we have Gears 5, which will make your eyes melt with how good it looks, and that goes for the base campaign as well as the Hivebusters DLC. This is another game where the developers, this time the Coalition, work so much magic to get a game looking and running this well. And that was just on the base Xbox and the Xbox One X. This time around on the Xbox Series X, it runs flawlessly, whether at 60 frames a second in the campaign or 120 in multiplayer, with a stunning dynamic 4K image being thrown around. Now on the Series X, gamers get treated to more visual effects, with the PC Ultra settings being the basis for this version. Improved lighting including global illumination, increased use of shadows, plus more details, with all of them being pushed out further into the distance. Of course, all of this is due to it being Xbox Series X and S enhanced, but it took an already freakishly good looking game and made it fucking phenomenal. Gears 5 is one of the most visually stunning games around, plus it's also a damn good game as well. Such an achievement from a developer that knows Xbox hardware inside and out. So there are 10 games that show off the graphics of what the Xbox Series X can do, with both backwards compatible games and those that have had next gen upgrades. There will be more games to talk about in future videos, as there are always other games out there I need to discuss, and more videos will be released as new games make their way into gamers' hands. But let me know which games you've found to be the most visually impressive and which ones have you revisited on the new, more powerful hardware. Please give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and please share it around the place on other platforms, as it greatly helps the channel grow. But with that, I'll see you on the next video.